Hello everyone. Before I start this video, I want to state that the topic of this video is definitely not family friendly and is highly disturbing and not to mention extremely depressing, so viewer discretion is advised. Never thought in a million years I would ever make a video about this person, but for reasons I promise I'll explain, I've decided to do so. This video is not intended for cheap clickbait or as an attack video, but like most of my videos on this channel is intended to ultimately help people on the autism spectrum and also help educate society about it. And this is the first and hopefully last video I ever have to do about this particular person. So months back I was planning on making a video about a congressional candidate that had autism that dropped out of the race because he got in trouble for sending unsolicited nude pictures to various women online, and at first he tried to use his autism as an excuse for his own behavior, but he continued the behavior no matter how many times people told him it was wrong. Anyway, so this video is going to be very similar to that, except the person I'm talking about instead has done something far, far, far worse than that. For those of you who don't know this person, Christian Weston Chandler, whom for the last 2 years or so has identified as Christine Weston Chandler, most commonly known as Chris Chan, who as of me posting this video is 39 years old autistic adult that has lived in internet infamy over the last 15 years for increasingly shocking and horrifying behavior. To get this out of the way, I will not refer to Chris Chan using female pronouns because Chris Chan has basically admitted that this self-identification is only being done because, he hopes it'll get him laid. So I'm not playing into that. This shocking and horrifying behavior, which made of the internet's favorite lolcow, has escalated to the point where Chris Chan got arrested on Sunday and will most likely either go to prison or a mental institution. This is the last chance for the squeamish to back out, so if you haven't already, you better turn off this video now because things are about to take a turn that is disgusting, even by Jerry Springer standards. An emergency protective order was filed against Chris Chan, I believe Thursday or Friday, sometime a few days ago or so, after some emails, texts, and phone call were leaked to the public via a website called Kiwi Farms, where Chris Chan allegedly admitted to sexually assaulting his 80-year-old dementia patient mother. And no, I'm not playing a clip of that phone call because I've already heard that disgusting confession more than enough for one lifetime, but if you're curious, it's all over YouTube. So you should be able to find it no problem. In the phone call, Chris Chan claims that his mother initiated the sexual contact, but the fact that his mother again has dementia and the fact that she was confused for part of it, quote-unquote, set off some serious red flags that call any claims of consent into question. The specific reason for Chris's arrest on Sunday is unknown, but it's likely that him allegedly violating the protective order by stealing $750 from his mother's bank account probably had something to do with it, or maybe it was the crimes he's accused of. Now, I know many of you who are familiar with Chris Chan are going to tell me that Chris Chan does not represent the majority of the autism community, and I of course agree, as is a very extreme case. Very likely has other mental conditions in addition to autism and is quite frankly a disgusting, vile person. And there are plenty of disgusting, vile people both on and off the spectrum. However, the tragic story of Chris Chan is also a living, breathing warning sign, a perfect storm, if you will, of what can occur if someone on the autism spectrum does not get the support they need from their parents and others around them. The horrific damage that cyberbullying can do to someone's mind, and most importantly of all, what can happen if someone on the autism spectrum uses their condition as an excuse to not attempt to change bad habits and behaviors, and others act as enablers to this, instead of them improving themselves. I cannot stress enough how important self-improvement really is, especially if you are on the spectrum. I first heard of Chris Chan sometime in the mid to late 2000s. As a result, both of his unusual behavior as well as the relentless cyberbullying, Chris Chan became known as what's called, again, a lolcow. At first I felt bad for him because I myself have been the target of bullying before, with the worst of it being in high school, and knew what it was like to be taking advantage of people you think are your friends. I was aware that some of his behavior was questionable, but felt he needed some compassion and guidance. I lost my sympathy toward him, however, when I found out how he treated a female friend of his that he had a crush on. Apparently, Chris Chan made some unwanted sexual advances toward her. Despite these unwanted advances, she remained his friend, but as his friend tried to tell him that his behavior was inappropriate and get him to correct it, unfortunately, instead of respecting her wishes, Chris Chan posted a pornographic cartoon of him performing a sexual act on her online. A cartoon I will not share, both because it violates YouTube rules and it probably also even violates the rules on Odyssey and Rumble as well. And anyway, I'm also on those sites if you want to check me out there. But anyway, this action caused her to end her friendship with Chris Chan and sever all contact with him. While I myself have struggled with learning what is and isn't appropriate sexual behavior during my teen years, one thing I did understand was the importance of the word no. Unfortunately, Chris Chan's sexual behavior ended up getting worse rather than better. In his love quest, as he called it, he went from an awkward 20-something community college student holding up signs at campus and some other public places requesting, quote, boyfriend-free girl. In some of these cases, going perhaps a bit too far with a solicitation, which eventually resulted in him getting expelled from his college, to the creep who didn't understand the meaning of the word no, to an alleged sexual predator, and I say alleged so I don't get sued. What makes matters potentially worse is that this isn't the first time Chris Chan has been in legal trouble. Years ago, Chris Chan and his mother attempted to run over the owner of a local game shop with his car as part of a revenge plot for banning him from his store for disruptive and inappropriate behavior which was often racist and homophobic, with him accusing black customers of stealing or cheating in the Pokemon card game tournaments that were often held there. Had many interactions with jerk-ops, as he called them, kicking him out of various places, and most recently, aside from him going all sweet Alabama on us, allegedly, pepper spraying a GameStop employee as part of a man-baby tantrum because Sega made Sonic's Arms Blue and Sonic Boom, which had just been released at that time, as if it's somehow that GameStop employee's fault. There are, of course, many other incidents involving Chris Chan, but even if I made this video an 8-hour live stream, I'd barely even scratch the surface, and I don't want to spend any more time than I absolutely have to talking about Chris Chan. But why are you talking about this when practically everyone else on the internet is? Many of you will ask, and with all the background info out of the way, it's finally time for me to get to the point. I made this video because I believe it's important to address this subject as an autistic adult who is fairly close in age to Chris Chan, with me being about 4 years younger than him. I've noticed different perspectives online regarding Chris Chan's behavior. There are the trolls that think this antisocial behavior is hilarious and for many years have tried to encourage that behavior by manipulating him and doing increasingly disturbing and disgusting things, such as getting him to shove a medallion up his anus, for example, and getting him to drink a cocktail of soda and his own semen. Many from this particular camp have stopped laughing once the news broke of just how far Chris Chan can go a few days ago. Now, there are his actual fans, and yes, unfortunately they exist, though his fan club has shrunk rather considerably with the recent news that apparently think Chris Chan didn't actually molest his mother, but was tricked into saying that by trolls. While I sincerely hope these people are correct, I have some serious doubts about that. There is the autism community, and then there's, of course, the general public, which has about as many opinions as stars in the sky. The million-dollar question, though, is how responsible from a moral standpoint is Chris Chan for his actions? More importantly, how responsible are other members of the autism community for their own actions? Much of this depends on where on the spectrum each individual is. Chris Chan, while he's severely impaired, partially due to the emotional stunting he has, due to not getting much of the help he needed years ago, and perhaps being mildly mentally challenged, and has some other delusions regarding some supposed dimensional merge, does have a very basic knowledge of right and wrong, at the very least enough knowledge of such to where he should have known that what he allegedly did with his mother is definitely wrong, and that she probably did not consent to it if this alleged events did occur. Chris Chan, while his past struggles mirror many of the common ones faced by those in the autism spectrum due to our difficulties interpreting social cues, and has had a horrible upbringing that has demonstrably stunted his neurological and emotional growth, has undergone a degree of bullying nobody should ever have had to, has had multiple opportunities to at least attempt to improve, but has instead decided to make excuses and play the victim. Yes, he had horrible parents, and the trolls who tormented him should be ashamed of themselves. But it was Chris Chan himself that decided to betray a friend's trust by posting a pornographic cartoon of her online. He made the decision to attempt murder by trying to run someone over with his car, and most horrifyingly of all, to allegedly molest his own mother. You people that are saying, Chris doesn't know any better, he's just autistic, have no idea what you're talking about. Yes, the learning curve for appropriate social behavior is much higher for those in the autism spectrum than most of those off of it. And while patience and deference should be given in certain circumstances, those should come with stipulations and accountability. This is the first time Chris Chan has faced any meaningful consequences for his actions, but this should have happened years ago. The sad truth is, even if you could argue that Chris Chan has no idea what he was doing, he's still a threat to himself and others and should have been institutionalized years ago and is completely incapable of ever living a healthy, independent lifestyle. If his issues were dealt with sooner rather than later, things perhaps could have been very different. Most of us don't turn out like Chris Chan did. I want to stress that, but I'm very concerned that unless we stem the cultural tide that encourages people to see themselves as victims, then this sort of tragedy will play itself out far more often than it should. To family members of autistic individuals, I say don't view your loved one's diagnosis as a death sentence. While it should be taken seriously and be extremely overwhelming, you shouldn't just wave the white flag. To society at large, we face many challenges you don't. And while we want and need respect, most of us don't want pity, and those that do should really be careful what they wish for. To those in the autism spectrum, I know things get tough. I know life doesn't seem fair a lot of times, but don't give up. Pick yourselves up. Try again if you need to. There's no shame in trying to reach out and get some help. Now, I know this video was hard for many of you to watch. It was hard for me to make. But I promise the next one won't be as depressing, so please stay tuned.